Right, it's my turn to talk to Christian Mieves about his work. There's a couple of pieces here of his large still life paintings. Are you okay to call them still life? Yeah. And I was wondering, because I've seen you working, how you decide on composition. Is it before, middle, after, during? How do you think about the painting?
That's a good question. I think it's neither. I think it's not before nor after. I think it's through the working process. I start very intuitively, and I think throughout the process suddenly I decide where to place certain objects, if I go close up or further away. I think the composition develops throughout the making.
Because I noticed you can see there's decisions on movement that you leave. Sometimes you cover, but you leave those decisions. And are they compositional, or is it from observation? Because I think for me there's a tension between observation and composition and colour. You talk about three things play. Would you say that, or yeah?
I think that there are definitely several things playing at the same time, or almost competing. I almost have the feeling that I start painting and I try to get close to the object, or try to get a kind of more or less accurate image, and then at a certain at a certain point, probably it flips and I go away again from the object, or I almost overpaint certain aspect. I destroy it again, or make it less recognizable, and to create this distance perhaps between the object and me. Less recognizable.
So, what about the choice of objects? We've got one behind you there and one here. And I call it still life because to me it fits in with that genre, that sort of European genre of paintings. Do you choose the objects, or are there something you notice in these two paintings?
I think I'm attracted to certain objects and attracted to certain situations. I think I thought before, what kind of objects do I really like? And as you can see in those two paintings here, they were done in the studio spaces down there. I mean, Tony, you worked next to, this was one of your desks actually. So, and I really liked this idea of working almost in between or in the middle of everything else. So there was not a quiet spot, it wasn't kind of removed in a quiet studio, but I wanted to be where it happens. So also that objects move a lot at those spaces. So what happened, Tony was working along and I started painting, and when I came back the other day, then everything had changed. Yeah? The objects on the table had changed, the table was not there anymore, chairs were moved and so on. And I really liked this kind of pressure, this kind of flux, that this is not something very static, as you can tell probably from the painting. Another example of to what extent I really like this situation, I did a series of paintings of landscapes, of city landscapes, and I placed myself in the middle of the city itself. So I didn't have an easel, I didn't have oil paints with me, but what I did is actually I struck the block of paper onto lampposts or any post I could find, and painted in the middle of the street. And sometimes cars were stopping, or was people passed by, they said something, or they found it interesting or less interesting. And again, around me, everything was changing constantly. Yeah? And I very much like this, almost impossibility to capture something as it is. Yeah.
So, in the end, any painting becomes a formal structure. Really, you're trying to start with something that has no formal structure. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Most still life painters would arrange it very carefully and think about the distance and the light. You're sort of saying you're trying to wipe that away.
Mm-hmm.
You say?
Yeah. Something where the formal structure is very fragile and very. I'm looking at very ephemeral objects. Something which will be discarded shortly after, or so. And try to capture this as good as it is possible. Yeah. And, yeah.
So I'm moving slightly towards another question, but as a sort of bridging question, do you feel that you're trying to be in a tradition and break the tradition at the same time of European still life object painting? Do you feel you're in that tradition, or?
To a certain extent, I mean, I'm interested in giving up control and losing the structure or using certain fixed elements in my paintings. And probably you could say this fits also to a certain tradition in painting. I mean, particularly thinking of Dutch still life painting, where suddenly you might think of Dutch still life painting as fixed objects, but I mean, particularly in the vanitas paintings or something, there's a clear flux in those objects. They are all deteriorating, they are all molding, or there's a sense of smell, there's something, so everything is moving in a way. But I'm also interested in to what extent those objects then gain their own life or agency. So where those objects, perhaps in a very banal way, reflect back, very shiny objects. They reflect back, and so that it's not the viewer or the artist who is in control of everything, but that the object in itself gain a certain activity or agency. So I mean, in relation to my painting, as I said, I'm interested in this idea of losing control, that the environment around me moves, changes. I'm not really able to capture it, but I think this puts me in a position where I have to find shortcuts. I have to find really ways to show this as in the means I have. So work very quickly, find kind of ciphers for what I see, and so on.
Yeah, it appears to me one of the things, and that sort of comes on to a slightly different thought I've been having about your painting. I really like the facility with paint and paintbrush, and moving it around, and you've got a tremendous skill. Is a difficult word, but it is a skill that you've got with it, a facility, and you're almost trying to trip yourself up because you know you've got that facility. It appears to me that that's in your work.
It's interesting what you say about facility, because I often think doing this painting doing painting is almost every time starting from scratch. It's like as if I had never painted before.
Because sometimes you ever look at your previous paintings, think, how did I do that?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like you're in a zone, isn't it?
Yeah. So having this feeling that each painting is really a start from zero again.
Yeah.
And often you think, yeah, how did I get there, and how can I do this? And I was wondering why that is. Yeah? Why do we have this strange feeling? And I have a feeling perhaps it is really this quest of wrangling or tackling the paint every time from scratch. If I had a recipe, if I had an image in my head, it would be easier. It would be very. I could just fill in the bits and would say, do an illustration. But it is not. I think it's almost like fighting every time. Do you recognize this?
I see that it's a very different way of working in the end than I tend to do. But I can see that struggle. And it's a struggle against yourself, as well as the paint, as well as the object. So, if you weren't struggling, you'd make yourself. This is why I said true. You almost sort of say, no, this is going too well. I've got to put something in that I don't know what's going to happen. That's
a really good point. I think I make myself struggling. If it's not difficult, then I put myself out again in a different situation. So, but it is also another issue that I find curious is that I often repeat the same thing again and again, and you wonder why that is. Painting the same objects over and over again. So, some of you have seen the street views kind of in the studio there. So where you paint almost the same view again and again in the different sizes, and almost as if I was looking for something, but then without concluding, I start again and again. So
I was surprised. Miracles of modern science. I've been looking on the internet at your work and exhibitions you've had, and I was surprised by your changes in scale that you do. And I don't often see that in an artist, where they'll come from this size to this size, using the same ideas or working on the same themes. What makes you decide on different scale? This is this big. What made you, and what would make you think that? What is it?
It feels almost that after working in a large scale, I have to work in small scale to keep it perhaps fresh again.
It's another challenge.
Yeah, another challenge, another obstacle. Perhaps to say, if you get too comfortable with a large scale, then you switch to small scale and find it have to change modes again. When you said on Monday that if you're very confident or very about before starting painting, it's probably a bad sign. You want you want to keep this kind of tension alive, and perhaps the scale is one way of confronting you with a challenge. How do you work on a large scale? How do you work on a very small scale?
And to keep your integrity. It's quite a difficult thing, because if you're trying to trip yourself up, it seems to me that's my description of what you're almost trying to do, to keep it always fresh or new or vibrant and exciting. But changing scale is one of the things you can do. But I noticed also that you, which was the next question that we sort of leads into, that you have actually worked versions of old masters, especially French, 18th century, early 19th century, Boucher on, why for you? I think why have you done that? What is there in the thinking?
That's interesting, because that's almost a series of paintings I've never done here in the studio. So it's figurative painting, as you say, related to French 19th century paintings, or Boucher or others, where you have this typical nude figures lying on the sofa or so. And I was interested in redoing something which is very well known. So this kind of redoing what I said before, you repeat something again and again. So picking up an image and redo it and see how close you get or how far, how much distance you can put in. And it's still recognizable, or it works, or
it's recognizable to me.
Yeah. But other aspects then come. I mean, they look slightly different. They look painterly, but then of course there's a link to the reference. But it looked almost wrong, perhaps, to copy, or it looks polluted or something. Mixed something with other stuff, and so this. I think doing it again, picking up art historical paintings and redoing those, I mean, pollution was, or kind of make it not quite clean, or there was kind of thought process behind it.
But it's really interesting because most times you see somebody that's worked from a classical piece, they try to copy their stuff, which is very valid and useful exercising. But you seem to have sidestepped that and put in your attempt to trip yourself up. So you're almost sort of saying, this is what people do, and I'm going to trip myself up before I even start. I'm not doing that. So you're doing something, and before it even starts, you've stopped it. So I just found that fascinating to work from that. Without irony or anything, sort of.
I mean, I'm very interested in this kind of misreading or reading into and miscommunication or tripping up. There's something noticeable here, but it's almost on the verge of disappearing. So that these spots over there, they're not quite clear anymore what this is. Other elements are perhaps easier recognized, and so this kind of coming closer and leaving it again. I think those nuances, I think I'm quite interested in. Same with those French. On the other side, I have to say the French and I was really interested in the light situation also. The light of it, sometimes very dramatic, or I mean, there was some. Something.
It's the Chardonnay one, the ones. I really like that one. Well, I've not seen it'll be very different to see, but I was caught by that because it's a really nice piece of work. And if you don't know the original, it's still a really strong piece of work, and actually really almost nothing to do with the original. You're almost using it as a jump-off point. And I really like that piece.
I think jumping-off point is a good. So just it might be a stiller, it might just be a table as a kind of source material, which then enables me to do something with it. So
Because I get quite a good feeling of space in yours, which a lot of contemporary artists don't deal with or don't want to deal with. And you seem to be hovering between definite aerial perspective and drawn perspective, and not. So we're looking at the paint, but we're not looking at the paint. And is that? Does it have to have that tension for you?
Definitely, I think it's a really good, really important point. It's so allowing to look in or to create a space or the illusion of space, and at the same time, erasing it almost, flattening it out, eliminating this kind of space. I think this is really. I think perhaps you could also see it here, where there is the sense of space to a certain extent, but in other areas you just see the paint almost smeared over the surface, and it pushes you out again. So this kind of duality, this dichotomy perhaps of this, draw you in, push you out, I think that's something really important. And yesterday with Simon, we talked about this being skeptical about images or imagery or illusion. And I have a very strong sense in my work that I'm very skeptical of images. And to a certain extent that I never seem to finish the paintings, or they are almost, I break up just before it gets finished. So so just to say, this is still a painting. It's not an illusion. It's not reality. So I really, that's a really important point to me.
Yeah, the materiality is a good word that we've been using this week. You seem to really enjoy that it's paint, and oil paint especially. You know, these are oil paintings. They're not acrylic paintings. They're not watercolours. They're not gouache. They're not ink drawing. They're not print. They're oil paintings, and I think that seems to me to be very important to you, that you actually sort of love the paint and distrust it at the same time.
But I wonder why. I mean, I wonder why it is so important to me to have those kind of areas where you see the fluidity of the paint, the kind of this, and I don't know why this is so. Why is it so key to me to show that this is oil paint? This is not a photograph. This is not. It's not
a acrylic paint. It's oil paint. Yeah. You know, and that seems very important to you.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at it. That you, if it was starting to move away from that, you'd be worried maybe that it no longer looked like oil paint. There's a point where it stops looking like oil paint.
Definitely,
yeah. Because I think the one behind you there, you've used more, on a smaller space, you've used more variation in textural marks. You've got really quite smooth areas and quite thick areas. And that, I've not seen any painting of yours where it isn't that case, where you've got tension between different types of areas, whereas a lot of painters, including myself, will decide on a surface feel and sort of keep it in most of the painting. And I think Simon's is in a way, and mine is in a way, that we're sort of almost imposing a surface to it, and you're trying to break up the surface with different actual physical depths.
I think it probably comes back to the kind of work process, no? That I really, for me it is important to show that this is painted, that the viewer can see the process, how it is painted, that you see the traces of brush strokes, the indexical signs, so that you almost can follow through it and see, there's a layer behind it, then I put something on top of it. You can really see this. And this seems to me really to make this traceable almost, and to make this really, really visible.
But then again, it kind of, it's a very old-fashioned term, but that word painter, physicality of the paint itself is really important to me. People don't like to use that term painterly anymore, but that's what it is,
But I think, I don't know if it's so unfashionable. I think to me it seems very essential again, perhaps more now than ever. And just to bring it out of this context of showing reality, to say this is painterly, this is not, I'm not showing a real image here.
And you've got a series that you based on the National Geographic pictures, and you're the same painter using them, but you've not, or you've consciously not used photographic approaches to it, even though the subject is from that. You've again reclaimed it almost into your world of marks, suggestions, tripping yourself up, working with the thing. And it's got a nice conceptual framework that's actually, to me, slightly different than these. But you haven't done a copy of the photographic depth. And was that very conscious when you started out and thought, well, I'm going to use these as reference, they're not art pictures?
So I used, as David said, I created a series related to National Geographic magazines from the 50s and 60s. And this was really an attempt to see how this kind of exotic spaces, the kind of, I mean, those adventures in the 50s, so people, readers could flick through those journals and they could escape to tropical landscapes and beaches. And if you look through, look at those magazines, you might think, well, this happened, I don't know, 100 years ago.
Yes.
It looks totally detached from our everyday experience. And I was very interested in how this exoticism is created and how there are never recognizable elements from our Western world. There is really an attempt to get the viewer eliminated from this. It's an unspoiled landscape. But it's very constructed. It looks very real, but it's very constructed. And this was, I think, for me, a really good point to see how images are constructed and how we might think this is real, but it's very heavily edited. And ideologically, it's very problematic also. How we disenfranchise us from those images or from those places which are indeed created by us. Yeah? Yes. So we want to say this has nothing to do with us, this is kind of unspoiled beach, but in the end we create this image. So this was an aspect.
So you're almost picking up something that people think is somehow real and saying this is a construct as well. So these we can see as a construct. You're saying this is as well. So photographs lie, really, in a sense, and you're pulling out some of that, deconstructing some of it by looking back at it with your painterly eye. Really.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that we have a certain interest in not mixing our reality with our everyday life experience with images we look at. Yeah. As a tourist, we don't want to be reminded at holiday what our weekly, everyday experience is. So there's a real attempt to separate those two parts. Yeah? The working life and holiday is separate. That sounds banal, but how is this reflected in images? And then perhaps the same happens then in those very banal, very ordinary paintings of cups and tables. But there I also want to say that this isn't, I'm not showing you the reality, I'm not showing, it's my impression of something which probably didn't exist anyway.
So it's a reality and it's not at the same time. It's a construct as well, but you're saying this is as real as a photographic piece, which I found very interesting. In the questions, I feel like I'm running out of there.
But this thing about the question, well, it's a very different practice. This thing that you mentioned about repetition, always revisiting them. I just wondered if you'd ever been influenced by the Italian still life painter Giorgio Morandi. This fascination with still life and hardly ever leaving that one room, constantly revisiting again and again, but always slightly different. A total obsession with the object. Is there any kind of similarity?
It's a very good point. I mean, looking at his work, it's so precise, and then the precision lies in those small details where you hardly noticeable, where you think, well, these are the same cups or vases, or and yeah, no, that's a very good point. I like this book a lot.
Because he's going for perfection almost, like the perfect, whereas you're deconstructing.
Well, I think he was deconstructing as well. To be fair, they're not. You can see it's possibly the same bottle, but the scales are different or whatever. So I think it's an interesting comparison. Very, very different painting, a bigger range of colour and things, but I could see why you're connecting it, which is quite an interesting connection.
I was going to say the beauty of like painting what's in front of you is, as an artist or a sketcher, you're always looking for the perfect thing to sketch. Whereas if you sit and sketch what's in front of you, you take that pressure away. And the thing is, very often the things that we look to sketch, I think general, normal people, the things that you look to sketch tend to be very aesthetic things to sketch. So then you've got that pressure of recreating something that looks beautiful because it is beautiful, whereas if you paint a piece of rubbish, or it takes that pressure away.
Well, you're hinting at to me what is tradition, and we've been talking about that you in tradition and trying to be beside it. And there's a tradition of what is beautiful. So if you go to the Lake District, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I could go to the Lake District and do some great paintings of plastic bags at the side of the road, and that's the Lake District, as much as but everybody goes there and they start looking at the hills. So you're almost told what is beautiful, and I think Christian, to me, is going to one side and saying it's all, everything. If you want to use the word beauty, it's all beautiful. If you want to use ugly, it's all ugly. There isn't a word, there isn't actually a word that says this is more than that. You know, this is better. Yeah, there isn't a word to describe the thing you're looking at before you start, because you are mediator, you are changing it to a painting.
But it's a moment in time. That's how.
Well, these aren't, are they?
Well, they are.
It's like a snapshot.
Yeah, but that has happened. That was there then. It's a moment in time. It's to be recreated.
But I think that's a contentious thing to say. So what do you think? Do you think they're moments in time?
Well, I think perhaps the category doesn't. Well, I mean, they are on one side, of course, they are moments in time. On the other side, they show something more general.
Yeah.
So it's both.
But you're not going to be able to recreate that, are you? I'm saying that is a snapshot. Somebody else uses that snapshot word. That you're not going to recreate that snapshot. It's gone. You know, that's the interest.
But it's like the image is constantly changing anyway. It's like you say, I look at it and then do it again, and then it's a different image, and so it's.
But
isn't it?
This is actually, I think all paintings are, but very much in these of Christian, there are actually lots of moments in one. It's a moment, it starts as a painting, so it's a painting in time, moment, but the image is actually almost like a diary of moments and times and thoughts, and because as you say, you come back and it's changed, come back and it's changed. And I think, to me, I understand this work more, thinking of it as a series of time, a series, all in one go. I only see them in one go, you've seen it build, and it's taken a week, 2 weeks, or it doesn't really matter, but it's not a photograph which is of. You know what I mean?
I think the objects are kind of secondary to the brush strokes, because that's the first thing I'm attracted to, thinking of the different brush strokes and the different textures, and then you think, oh, that's a jar, or that's a, you're not so much interested in thinking, what is it? You're more looking at the brush strokes and the colours and the paint.
Which ties into what I was saying about it doesn't have to look exactly like. Do you know what I mean?
They're aesthetically pleasing, nice compositions. But is there any intention or awareness to show an object as an aesthetic and beautiful object in the way you approach it. Are you admiring the beauty of the subject, or is that unconscious?
I think definitely there's an attempt to show the objects in a beautiful way, yeah. And it's a kind of struggle to find the best possible way, and it's whether you're either running out of time or it's you lose interest or something changes or and what I said before, painting in the city centre, for example, and it's perhaps a good description for this, that you're almost, I couldn't paint wherever I wanted, I needed lampposts, yeah? So I could only paint in certain areas. And also, then it started raining, so you had to leave after a while, or you had, but that was deliberate what I wanted. I didn't want to say, okay, the next 2 weeks, this spot is perfect. I think this idea of perfect conditions is something I find very horrific. Yeah? So saying a perfect studio, perfect conditions, you have all the time you want, all the material. It's my sort of nightmare probably. I would say 2 days, lots of stress, yeah, that's good. That's,
That links back to the fact that, you know, when you revisit a painting and you look, how did I do that? Because that's really curious to me, because I often do that. I think, is it me that did that? And you mentioned that you mentioned that the brush strokes, and you mentioned that particular parts that we're painting, those brush strokes that aren't necessarily replicated in another painting. That, you know, you make that very, very quick decision. You know, and I think that's by working quickly, there isn't, hopefully, any time for that considered, to be more considered.
Absolutely, I think that this working method of working quickly is to switch off all kinds of controls, you know, and to say, I don't want to control it, and I look at it afterwards, but that's probably also the reason why I then think, so why did I end up here with this? Yeah,
I think, you know, it's really interesting though. And also, I mean, I find that sometimes when I stop and then I try and consider, that is often a mistake. So, you know, just walk away from it, or come back to it. That's a difficult decision as well.
But I do think it's really I think it's a really liberating approach from an artist, because I just think, going back to the procrastinating, people do it because you lack so much confidence, and if you say to yourself, I've got, before it tips it down the rain, I'll put it on a lamppost, not do it. I think in a weird sort of way, it does, absolutely, because that's so many restraints and so many expectations, more so from yourself maybe. I think it is
I think when you paint outdoors then, it forces you to eliminate so much fuss and the scene, and you are faced with all sorts of restrictions as well, and it just makes you focus down, and sometimes you're really restricted with time as well. And it just makes you look at it, and so when you go back into the studio, you're fed with that information to wipe out all the detritus that goes along with making a pretty picture.
I mean, Jackie, I think it is liberating, but on the other side, I think I'm looking for obstacles. So it's not the kind of, it's a challenge, because if you stand outside there and people constantly speak to you, or they have to pass by, and it starts raining, then there's nothing liberating about this. Yeah, it gets all really awkward. Yeah, and the painting is not going along. It's not coming in the right way. It's you put pressure on yourself, but that's deliberate.
So you set yourself a challenge to overcome.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost getting beyond that and always trying to trip yourself up. It's almost like being a jazz player where you've got fantastic facility and skills, so you're trying to improvise. So you're not thinking, well, the obvious, no, with this. You're sort of saying, well, where can I go with this that I don't want to go or I haven't been? And in the moment. So it's being in the moment, I think, a lot of what Christian does. And you must actually sometimes stop because you think, I'm not playing is maybe the wrong word. I'm not zoning, I'm not really got that.
It makes it exciting.
Yeah.
There's a fear, but there's an excitement.
Yeah. But if you haven't got that, you should almost stop, maybe,
Yeah.
in your work, maybe.
I wonder, I often ask myself, how do you describe this skill now? If you say, there is some skill in here, but many people would probably also say, you say it's liberating, it's refreshing or so, but many people say, actually my 5-year-old could do this better, yeah?
Yeah, but that's, you're taking away the kind of your background then, to get to that point.
Well, this,
5-year-old maybe could do something.
Well, it means you don't understand it. Usually when people say a 5-year-old can do it, either they're right and it is rubbish, which is rare, or they don't actually understand what you're looking at. They just, to them it's just a jumble. It'd be like looking at a Japanese phone directory if you don't read Japanese.
Sometimes making any freak that a child has to get any pressure, that a child will just sit and draw and nothing.
Liberating doesn't mean easy. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, I will find it liberating because I find it terrifying being in the studio with a blank piece of paper and every piece of and a beautiful scene in front of me. That's what I find terrifying.
Yeah.
Whereas if I just sat somewhere and somebody said draw that, I wouldn't, because people have a perception about what beauty is. You can't get away from that. People will tell you, regardless of whether you think it's a good painting or not, people will tell you what they think of your work. Regardless, I'm not saying it's easy, but for me it is liberating if you go out and it's almost because it's about your own expectations.
I think that Christian and Sam, well, all the painters here and hopefully yourselves, you have got to forget your audience. I think when you're painting, you are painting. And you're not interested whether it sells or doesn't sell or blows up afterwards. You're painting.
Your own worst critic, aren't you? Because your biggest audience is yourself.
Put that out.
It's so hard to do that.
It is. But when you're painting, you shouldn't have